Planning the series for this year, the Jazz Symposium, I wanted to think about how to provide focus for the participants in terms of what Dance Immersion was trying to offer to the Black dancing community. The theme of how did we get here? It's really a question myself and other artists have been having about the relationships in the jazz community, the separation between dancer and musician, the separation of forms within the jazz community, tap dance, solo jazz, Lindy Hop, arriving at this place of how are we all so separated? That's one aspect of how did we get here. The other part of how did we get here is having to have these conversations about dances that come from Black communities and basically having to remind ourselves and re-educate ourselves about the where, the how, and the why that these forms actually come from our people. How did we arrive at this point where there's separation, where we don't realize or recognize that these forms come from our communities? When I was thinking about this weekend in terms of the facilitators and the teachers I wanted to have on board for this, the first person that I had to clock right away was my mentor. His name is Moncell Durden, and he was one who was instrumental in my unlearning and relearning of what jazz dance is and its lineage within African American vernacular dances.
When you want to move around the floor, you don't want to lose your groove, so you like, in the New York City cast, like, East Coast out. This morning's session, the plan was I had a small routine of solo dances, and we were going to do them loosely across the floor and then so that they'd be familiar, and then put them together for the routine. And, rinse and repeat. But the energy I felt from the dancers, the energy I felt from the trio was just like, no, we don't need to do that. This is not the class structure you're used to. This is familiar, and let's just go wherever the flow of water takes us. The way we define dance sometimes is I need to go learn, but it's in here, it's already in here. So the sensibility to be inspired by the people we're dancing with I saw it happening and just let it go. So these two got a step and they just team up and they do a thing, and those three, and so you're, as in the barbecue, you're inspired by everybody around you. It's not the one person in the front, it's us collectively. That's what's happening in this moment, right? Collectively, we are individually calling upon the ancestors, right? That's who we dancing to. We dancing to our ancestors. We dancing to our present selves, our future selves, our past selves. We dancing to the unborn. It is not that I need to be in class. I need to be with us.
Yeah, and a huge part of this weekend of unlearning and relearning is also about connecting the dots of Black vernacular dances with African aesthetics. Breai Michele, because of her knowledge, not just as a jazz dancer, Lindy Hop dancer, but also her rich, vast knowledge in West African traditions, I think is key in helping connect the dots in the aesthetics of the form. So I was really glad that she was available to come to Toronto and share with us.
Jazz falls into folk art. It's the fruit of experience, it's the fruit of the memory, the aesthetics, the relationships. It's illustrative of Black culture and Black community, and it speaks to our history and our humanity. But the question was, how do we get here? How do we get to a space where a dance that came out of the Black community is now colonized? We took something that comes from a Black cultural model and it gets filtered into this Eurocentric cultural model, and it does not fit. Like African village culture, like people come to the center, play drums, dance, transmission. It's within the village. So within our village, we don't own the spaces, so we don't have that type of transmission. It's changed and gone different places, but largely in commodified ways. Like we're in a dance group, we travel around, we primarily compete. Competition is a part of our culture, but it's not all there is. And when everything is about contention and nothing is just about, like yesterday we were just like laughing and like you dance and I dance and we dance and it's just joy. It cannot be that every time we meet on the dance floor we're here to compete.
What I appreciated about the lecture this morning, like very much the physicality of it, like the stories of migration, the stories of travel, of being uprooted. You can't separate that physical journey from the spiritual one.
Moncell, he's a Wikipedia page for jazz, and he said that we don't ask why things are the way that they are.
Slop, which is a dance done in the 60s, if y'all ever watched the Jeffersons, that was George's favorite dance. He was doing the West End slide, they were really big with their arms. And so that's still based in Charleston.
I think jazz and dance were a great tool to ask a lot of deeper questions.
I should say neither of us are dancers.
I knew that I was having Americans come in to facilitate this workshop in Toronto, but I also wanted to offer the participants some Canadian context around some of the differences, similarities, and how things were moving within our geographic location. So I invited Seika Boy, who's an artist, a scholar, a professor, who's done a ton of research about dancing Black in Canada. And I invited Michelle Moss, who's based in Calgary, Alberta, to also share her experiences as a dancer in Canada. I also invited Travis Knights, who's from Brampton, who's an incredible tap dancer and is really anchoring the community and finding ways to unite jazz culture, not just from a tap dance perspective, but the music, the people, and he's been doing some really incredible work.
Welcome one, welcome all to the Legacy Jazz Social. How y'all doing? Great.
So it's been really cool to kind of be a part of this event and to participate just as like a sort of outsider to dance. I'm not really a dancer. Think about the theme in terms of how we got here. It makes me think about the connectedness of all these different movements, all these different sort of social spaces, all of these ways of being in community, being together, and how dance has facilitated that for such a long time.
A one, a two, you know what to do, and
you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. So how did we get here? So what shifted? And then now that we know what shifted, where do we go from here?
In a lot of ways, that understanding is tangled up with a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, but it can also be tangled up with a lot of joy.
When I'm out on the dance floor, just shaking my ass or whatever, it's totally rooted in all of these spaces, all of these communities, all of this resistance, all of this storytelling, and yeah, that's really special.
How did we get here?
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 How did we get here?